Our first clear look at Montana's 2026 U.S. Senate race after a chaotic final day of candidate filing. One of the biggest names in Republican politics here, U.S. Senator Steve Daines, is out and a new Trump-backed candidate is in. NBC Montana's Bowen West breaks down who's running and why the drama is just getting started.
If you like political drama, the last 10 minutes before Wednesday's 5 p.m. filing deadline delivered. U.S. Senator Steve Daines quietly pulled his name from the ballot at 4:57 p.m., just 3 minutes before the window closed. Almost at the same time, former U.S. Attorney Kurt Alme jumped in, filing his paperwork at 4:52 p.m. to run for that open Senate seat, with immediate endorsements from both Daines and President Donald Trump. This wasn't random timing. CNN reporting says Daines waited to step aside until the very last minute to block Democrats from recruiting a heavy hitter like former U.S. Senator Jon Tester or former Montana Governors Brian Schweitzer or Steve Bullock into the race. In other words, Republicans tried to lock the field before Democrats could pull a big surprise of their own. So what does the field look like now? On the Republican side, you've got Kurt Alme, the Trump-backed former U.S. attorney, with Daines calling him his hand-picked successor, Lee Calhoun of Whitefish, and Charles Walkingchild of Helena. Alme comes in with the establishment backing and the law and order America first message Republicans are betting on. Democrats, meanwhile, have a crowded primary. Riley Neal, former state representative from Livingston, leaning on her legislative record, ties to farmers and ranchers. We got Michael Blackwolf from the Fort Belknap Indian Reservation, focused on rural and tribal issues. Then Michael Hummert, a Navy veteran, branding himself a realist, willing to praise both Trump and Biden where he thinks they're right. Then Alani Bankhead, 21-year Air Force veteran, now focused on child protection and ethical government, and Christopher Kehoe of Missoula, who just filed this week. There are also two libertarians, Kyle Austin and Tom Jandron. Plus a big question mark, independent Seth Bodnar, the former University of Montana president. Bodnar isn't on the primary ballot, but he's already out blasting what he calls the disgusting arrogance of Washington elites, accusing Daines of engineering a late-night switch to coronate Alme and shut out Republican primary voters. He still has to gather more than 13,000 valid signatures to make the November ballot as an independent. Okay, so quick recap for you at home. Daines is out. Alme is in with Trump's blessing. Democrats are headed for a five-way brawl, and an independent backed by Tester is trying to crash the party in November. Reporting in studio, Bowen West, NBC Montana.
Bowen West, thank you very much. Really good breakdown right there. Now, of course, be sure to come back and see us at 6 for a full rundown of the Western U.S. House race, now that Ryan Zinke announced that he won't seek re-election. Then again at 10 for the Eastern U.S. House race, where some interesting newcomers might make a splash. Bowen West has your triple threat coverage right here at NBC Montana.
The race for Montana's first congressional district is set, but with a new look after U.S. Representative Ryan Zinke stunned voters by announcing he won't run again. It set off a scramble on the Republican side and opened a door just a crack for Democrats. NBC Montana's Bowen West walks us through the new field of candidates and what Zinke's exit means for the 2026 ballot.
Let's start with this. Ryan Zinke is off the ballot. Four-term U.S. Representative and former U.S. Secretary of the Interior says injuries from his Navy SEAL career finally caught up with him and he needs surgery and time to recover, but the political impact is immediate. With Zinke stepping aside, Republicans rushed to claim the open Western District. Conservative radio host Aaron Flint joined with a splashy launch video and endorsements from Zinke, Governor Greg Gianforte, U.S. Senator Tim Sheehy, and other GOP leaders. Flint is a combat veteran, a longtime statewide talk radio voice, and a Trump ally who brands himself as a defender of Montana's Western way of life. He's already telling voters he'll fight what he calls radical socialists in Washington. Hot on his heels, former state senator Al Doc Olszewski of Kalispell, an orthopedic surgeon, Air Force veteran, and familiar name in Republican primaries after past runs for governor and Congress. They're joined by current Secretary of State Christy Jacobson, who's built her brand on making it easy to vote but hard to cheat, and Ray Curtis of Missoula on the Republican side. It's a loaded GOP primary, a Trump-aligned radio firebrand, a surgeon turned state lawmaker, a statewide office holder, and other conservatives all chasing the same base. On the Democratic side, 4 candidates had already lined up before Zinke dropped out. Ryan Bussey, a former gun industry executive who ran for governor in 2024, focused on working class economics and public lands. Russell Cleveland, a Navy veteran and rancher from St. Regis, whose campaign is built around healthcare, affordability, and fighting corruption. Matt Raines, a Black Hawk pilot, rancher, and ag advocate. And Sam Forstag, a union organizer with backing from U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders and a long list of Montana Democrats. Democrats see an opening here. As for third-party candidates, Nick Sheedy will be on the Libertarian ballot, and Kimberly Persico is running as an independent. So in western Montana, it's a free-for-all. Zinke is out, Trump-endorsed radio host and hard-right surgeon are in, and Democrats are hoping a crowded GOP primary gives them their best shot in years at flipping this seat. Voters will start sorting that out in the June primary. Reporting in studio, Bowen West, NBC Montana.
All right, thanks, Bowen. And be sure to tune back in to our live broadcast at 10 o'clock tonight, and we'll bring you a rundown of the Eastern U.S. House race. In election 2026, filing has closed in Montana's Eastern U.S. House District, where Republican U.S. Representative Troy Downing is running for another term. The field here looks a lot different, but there are some interesting newcomers trying to challenge the Trump-aligned incumbent. NBC Montana's Bowen West brings us a breakdown of who's in and what's at stake.
In the East, there is no last-minute retirement, no surprise exit. The Republican U.S. Representative Troy Downing is staying put and running for re-election. Downing is a combat veteran, former state auditor and insurance commissioner, and a loyal Trump ally who now sits on the House Financial Services Committee. He's selling himself as a conservative problem solver focused on lower taxes, fewer regulations, and America First energy and security policies. But look at what's forming around him. Democrats have multiple challengers. Brian Miller, a Helena attorney who talks a lot about respecting institutions and fighting extremism. Sam Lux, a 29-year-old farrier from Great Falls who openly says he doesn't want to be a politician but feels someone has to do something. And Jonathan Windy Boy, a former state representative and senator from the Rocky Boys Reservation with a long-time experience in Helena. Then we've got our wild cards. Libertarian Patrick McCracken has filed, and independent cardiologist Michael Eisenhower is jumping in from Great Falls. Eisenhower is a retired Army colonel and heart doctor who spends pages on his website dissecting the affordability crisis and what he calls broken healthcare and insurance system. So how does this play out? You've got entrenched Republican incumbent backed by Trump speaking to conservative voters and the energy and ag industries, and a fragmented opposition. Democrats pitching institutional respect, working class representation, and tribal experience, plus an independent doctor campaigning on affordability in rural hospitals. History favors Downing in a deep red district, but filing day tells us something important. There's real appetite among Democrats, independents, and third-party candidates to test whether voters want to stick with the Trump-aligned status quo or try something different. While the headlines may focus on the fireworks in the Senate and Western House races, don't sleep on the East. This is where we'll see whether a crowded field can make a dent in a well-funded Republican incumbent, or if that split just helps Troy Downing cruise to another term. Reporting in studio, Bowen West, NBC Montana.